morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. My name is Louise Houbaer, your host for today's Road Safety Pledge signing event. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional and continuing custodians of the land where Palawa have cared for their children and prepared them for life since the beginning of time. Together we live, work, play and learn on what was and always will be Aboriginal land. We honour elders past and present and pay our respects to all Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander colleagues, family and friends. We commit to ensuring every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander child and young person is known, safe, well and learning. Welcome everybody to Hudspeth Hall at Hobart High School. Today's pledge signing event is an opportunity to hear real stories and experiences from people whose lives have been impacted by motor vehicle accidents here in Tasmania. Today is about more than statistics, policies or road rules. It's about the choices that we make, the consequences that those choices have and the very real impact that one decision or moment can have on a life, a family and a community. On behalf of MAIB, I'd like to welcome members of the Road Safety Advisory Council and their partners, including Chair Scott Tilliard and RACT CEO Mark Mugnoni. We're here this morning because young Tasmanians, people just like you, are still overrepresented in serious road crashes. You make up just 11% of our population, yet more than 20% of those killed or seriously injured on Tasmanian roads are actually in your age group. MAIB data shows that in the last 5 years, 1,078 Tasmanians aged between 16 and 20 years old have been involved in a crash that requires a claim to the MAIB. Tragically, 18 of those young Tasmanians lost their lives and 334 of them suffered serious injuries. But when a crash happens, it's never just one life affected. It's parents, siblings, friends, classmates, teammates, entire communities. To help shed some light on what happens when the crashes occur, we have an incredible panel here with us this morning to share their stories. Joining me up here, we have the Motor Accidents Insurance Board Chief Executive Officer, Paul Kingston. Hello. From Tasmania Police Officer in charge of Road Policing Services Inspector Vanessa and Crash Investigator Senior Constable Kelly Cordwell. Acting Director of the Trauma Service at the Royal Hobart Hospital, Dr. Jamieson, and someone who most of you have probably met already, we have Richard Jones from BodySafe Coordinator and Wheelchair Sports in Schools for Paraquad, Tasmania. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Our first panellist this morning is Paul Kingston, the CEO of MAIB. Paul, hello again. What is the MAIB and can you tell us what it does?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Louise. Good morning, everyone. So the MAIB is the Motor Accidents Insurance Board. So we're a Tasmanian government-owned business and we really only exist to get Tasmanians better after they've had road crash. That's all we're here to do. And that support continues into road safety measures, events like today, plus funding police and education campaigns on road safety. Part of my job is very much to make sure we reduce the number of crashes so we don't have any clients at the MAIB ultimately in the long term.
Can you tell us who MAIB supports directly?
So the MAIB supports any Tasmanian that's injured in a road accident. So whether you're a driver, passenger or pedestrian on public or private roads, and it doesn't matter who caused the crash, we try to get everyone better after that accident. We also understand, as Louise said earlier, that every crash that we have, every serious injury or fatality has a big impact, obviously not just on the person involved, but on family, friends, school teams you play in, sports teams that you play in, your school community. So we do provide support across the whole community to help people deal with that impact which can be everlasting from road trauma.
Obviously that's a very costly exercise that you've got for the MAIB, Paul. How does it fund its support?
So the MAIB is funded, so every car that gets registered, there's basically for a standard car there's a $300 charge on there which comes to the MAIB, and that goes only towards the medical costs and the treatment costs for people that are injured in an accident. So again, if we actually reduce the number of crashes, we'll end up not having much money coming in, which will be fine by me, because it means we're not having to look after people that are injured. But basically, every Tasmanian through the registration funds the MAIB, and that looks after anyone that's injured, and it can be people injured just for a week or so, or days, and back to normal life, and it can be people that need 24/7 support for decades to come. So it funds all of that through that registration charge.
Why do you think this pledge is important for young people?
So look, this pledge, the MAB Road Safety Pledge, is part of National Road Safety Week, which is this week and being launched now. And what it is, basically, it's a promise that you're going to make smarter and safer choices on the roads. Now, you may think that that doesn't have a great deal to do with you yet. It does. Some of you are starting to transition into your Ls. You'd be in cars with peers that are a bit older. They're probably driving on their Ps, or even with parents. And what you've got to be careful of is what choices you make on the road. And that pledge, when you sign this, so we'll be signing it today, and I know your school captains will be signing it, and a QR code will go around for you to sign it as well. You're making that promise in front of your peers, not to me, not to other people, that you're going to look after yourself on the road. But if you're not only looking after yourself, it's other people on the road that you're making sure get home safe.
Really good messages. Thank you for that, Paul. We'll move on to a video now, everyone. This one's been taken from the Road Talk series made in partnership with 7 Tasmania. Meet MAIB client Paula, who at the age of 19 made one decision that changed her life forever. As you'll see, her story is really powerful, and it could have easily been someone sitting here in this room.
We were in a pub having a good time after football. Got in the car drunk and crashed. Changed my life. I broke everything on the left side of my body, including my face. My jaw was shoved to the right hand side there. My family suffered. My mum by my bedside every day. For 9 months I spent in hospital.
The MAB has partnered with the Road Safety Advisory Council for decades, providing over $4 million a year for the wonderful work that RSAC undertakes. And every crash prevented is a life that's changed for the better and a family that's saved from trauma.
I've lost my memory. My memory's really bad. I've got physio twice a week, hospital, doctors, speech pathology twice a week.
The MAB has had a relationship with Paula for 20 years post her accident, and through her determination, as well as the support from her occupational therapist and the MARB, she has made great strides on her recovery, including learning to walk again on her own.
I've had this place for about 9 years. In my bed, I've done my ramps. I've got wardrobe drawers, kitchen has all been done to suit my needs. I want to be as independent as I can be. Like some things I can't do myself. I try my best out of it. Thank God for MIB because they've done a lot.
We're here to support people through some of the most difficult times of their lives. The cost of care following motor vehicle accidents can be significant. Some MAB clients require lifelong support, which can run into the tens of millions of dollars. Every vehicle registration premium contributes to the system of care and support.
My main goal is to walk. I've come a long way, still got a way to go, but I'm prepared to do it. Don't drink drive because this happens.
For most of us, a crash is something that we see on the news or maybe we drive past, but for these next guests, it's something that they walk straight into. From our incredible emergency services, we have the Officer in Charge of Road Policing Services, Inspector Vanessa Castle, and Crash Investor Senior Constable Kelly Cordwell. Hello again. Can you tell us what a crash scene investigator does, please?
Well, I guess that's open to me. So I've been investigating crashes for 18 years. So it's our job to investigate the causes of the crash, contributing factors, and then either present that evidence to the courts or to the coroner. In some instances, it can be both. So our role is obviously we're not first responders at the scene, so the scene should be well maintained and closed to road traffic by the time that a crash investigator gets there. So then when we get there, it's our job to gather all the evidence from that scene, which can include obviously the vehicle and the roadway evidence, which can be anything from road markings, brake marks, yaw marks, which is a rotational tyre mark, point of impact indicators, which is obviously where two vehicles will come together often. They will dig into the groundway at point of impact, road spatter, all types of roadway evidence that we can gather and then present as part of our evidence to whichever audience is appropriate. You probably need to understand about that is that in some cases we don't need anybody to tell us what has happened. We can determine that already from the scene. And that includes pre-impact direction of travel for vehicles involved, including a single vehicle, post-impact travel, maximum engagement, separation, whether passengers inside the vehicle were wearing a seatbelt or not, injuries to, say there are 5 occupants in the car, generally an injury pattern on a person, whether they're just seriously injured or deceased, will tell us where they were seated in that vehicle. Most prominent would be seatbelt marks. We can tell if a seatbelt has been worn at the time, and also we can get speed evidence, pre-impact speed loss from brake marks, and in particular a yaw mark will give us an actual speed at impact. And then there's also another way of determining impact for particularly two vehicles. It's called the conservation of linear momentum. So it's one of Newton's principles, which is what energy in is energy out. And also you've got your, any vehicle now fitted with an airbag has what we know as an airbag control module. And that airbag control module or event data recorder gives us 5 seconds of pre-impact data. So we will be able to determine the speed of the vehicle, the amount of acceleration, when the brake was applied, steering angle, etc. And that is obviously then validated with this certain amount of evidence that we also gather at the scene. And then that is also forms part of the investigation. So essentially what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter to me too much what somebody says to me if it doesn't match the roadway evidence. And then that is then obviously presented to the court, and we get to sit down as police officers, crash investigators, forensic officers, and we get to analyse, in some instances, a decision that took somebody less than a second or 2 seconds, and we get to spend hours on that and analysing that decision that somebody made that has contributed or caused a collision.
Thank you for that. What happens when police arrive at a crash scene? First on the scene.
So, as Kelly mentioned, she's a specialist in her field, so she is a specialist crash investigator. But when police, usually uniformed police, first attend a scene, they will make an assessment and try and find out, what has happened. Their primary focus is to, maintain that scene. So it might involve road closures, it might involve diverting traffic, and they will obviously make sure that all other emergency services are called to assist them. And if it is particularly serious, and or worst case scenario, a fatality, then they will make contact with Kelly's team and they will come out as the specialist support.
Just briefly, can you explain how you survey and document a scene? Kelly, you've sort of gone through this a little bit, but just briefly explain it again, please.
Yes, so when we're collecting the evidence, obviously it needs to then be recorded. We have officers from the forensic services come along and take photographs. We also have specialist drone operators. And they will then do a view from obviously the top, and they can take still images, and then they go all the way through the scene, which then obviously gives us a nice 3D image. We also have, it's basically a survey tool, it's called the Trimble Total Station S7, and that will pinpoint so I can walk around as a sole operator, and it will pinpoint certain points on a roadway, and it's within 1 or 2 millimetres accuracy. And then that goes along with a scene diagram, which is centimetre accuracy. So we're recording not just in one way, but in multiple ways to gather the evidence. And then our vehicles are obviously inspected to eliminate any vehicle fault. We don't actually find that too many vehicle faults are causative. Sometimes they can be, say, contribute, like a bald tyre in the wet is obviously not going to stop you as well as a tyre with really good tread. So that's all the evidence that we then gather, and like I said, then blood tests are also undertaken. So any driver involved in a serious or fatal car crash, blood sample is taken from them, and then that is analysed for any illicit drugs, alcohol, and in some cases it can include prescription medication. And then that is all taken into account and presented to the court. What I will say is that a momentary lapse in concentration can be anywhere from you've looked over to here and then you've missed something in front of you. That can be in the realms of drive without due care and attention or negligent driving. So negligent driving is a failure to do something, a failure to observe an impending collision. And then you're going up into dangerous driving and manslaughter, which is an overt act. So it's a deliberate act of driving. Somebody has made a decision to disobey multiple road rules and drive in a manner that's not only dangerous to their occupants but also dangerous to other road users. And that will come with a jail sentence.
What road or environmental factors are considered, if you can just briefly explain those?
So the road surface itself, whether or not there was sufficient friction between the road surface and the tyres, and corners, whether they're suitably marked for, with speed advisory signs. All of those things are sort of taken into consideration, weather conditions, because all of those things are something that a reasonable driver should be taking into consideration anyway. And we need to know whether or not, and in some instances, is that speed limit appropriate for that intersection or that section of road, and we can make recommendations to the coroner or the Department of State Growth to do a review on whether or not that speed limit is appropriate for the circumstances.
Thank you. Vanessa, I just get you to explain if you see any common patterns in serious questions, and what message would you give to young drivers, please?
So patterns with serious crashes and or worse, I guess, that may lead to a fatality quite often, and quite fittingly, the theme of National Road Safety Week is distraction and or inattention, and those things so very easily often contribute to really unfortunate and terrible outcomes. I guess, talking about distraction and inattention leads us into what we, try to promote really regularly within police, and I know through RSAC and MAIB as well, is what we call our Fatal Five. And those things are things we ask all of you to consider as new drivers on the road. So I've given you one, which is inattention and distraction, but also that includes speeding. It also includes fatigue. So if you are driving when you are tired, it is super important that A, you don't, or B, if you need a break, then you take that break so that you can, regain your concentration and concentrate on what you're doing. Drink and drug driving is obviously one of the Fatal Five contributors, and also it goes without saying, not wearing seatbelts is one of those things that does contribute to serious and fatal crashes.
All right, thank you so much both for your insights this morning. We'll now move on to another video where we'll meet MAIB client Paul, who was travelling to see his favourite band when a crash changed his life forever. He now creates artwork that celebrates his ongoing love of music.
This is the car after the accident. Shows what I hit, which was a tree, and you can see where the car's bent and where the tree hit. and you can see where my seat snapped and laid me down and protected me from getting the roof to crush my body and kill me. And my clothes are on top of the roof, which they had to cut off me to get me out of the car.
We've had a relationship with Paul for 18 years. Paul came to us after having a motor vehicle crash, and we've been able to support him along the way in his journey for recovery and rehabilitation when he had that accident.
I'm blind in this eye, and the short-term memory loss is hard. About a year before my accident, he's gone.
Our claims teams are in a position where they support Paul within what his direct daily needs happen to be that are MAIB related. We also have our external providers that walk alongside of Paul in regards to being able to support him to live his life and enable him to be as independent as possible.
Another ukulele here, which I'm going to do something cool with inside a guitar. I only started making them after the accident. This is my NoFX guitar. The reason I made this one was because I was on my way down to go see them when I had my car accident, but I didn't make it because of the car accident, so I missed out on their concert. Well, I was listening to music loud and singing away, and then I was just about to hit a corner and my phone rang through the speakers and just went ring, ring, and soft launch. And then, because I was going too fast, I didn't have time to make the corner, and I rolled my car 4 or 5 times. The only tree that was in the paddock I collected, they had to cut me out of the car and get me out and take me straight to hospital because I was put into a coma. The dashboard came down, landed on my knee, snapped it backwards, and my shoulder snapped in, and my arm snapped. I don't remember being in hospital at all. I wasn't able to do the things I loved doing, which was skating and rollerblading. 540 backflips I could do. I qualified in the trials and got a placing in the X Games over in the mainland. It's a bit hard on my body because my shoulders start hurting when I'm doing things. My knees get sore as well after standing and walking for so long. Yeah, I was studying education and I had been on a few pracs. So I'd been to a few schools and taught some kids. The final year I didn't get to start because of my accident.
We have attendant care providers supporting Paul to be as independent as possible, case managers who are able to assist Paul to navigate the complexities of life, when support needs, and occupational therapists to be able to continue to support Paul in his recovery and rehabilitation journey in all the areas that are important for him.
Our next guest here this morning is the Acting Director of the Trauma Service at the Royal Hobart Hospital, Dr. Jenny Jamieson. Hello.
Hello.
Jenny, you may have some pictures for us that come with a bit of a warning. So if you don't like blood, we will give you a warning and you can cover your eyes. Jenny, you're involved in the party program, Prevent Alcohol and Risk-Related Trauma in Youth. Can you tell us about it, please?
Sure, I can. The party program was actually a program, it's a global program that was started in Canada, and it's spread across the world, and it's very much geared to year 10 and 11 students who might be starting to learn to drive. It actually takes you and it invites you into the hospital and asks you to experience what it might be like if you are injured. So you can see what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. Not just when you come in, but what it might look like if you ended up having to stay in hospital for several weeks. We invite you to hear from some of our injury survivors who might have been involved in a car accident. And we also get you involved with some of our allied health teams. So we put you into wheelchairs or splints or collars and slings, and then we get you to see if you can do your ordinary daily activities. And so the whole program is geared towards understanding what it might be like in terms of your risk-related, risk-taking behaviour and what the consequences may be.
What are people confronted with when they arrive in emergency after a road crash in a real life scenario?
So if you're really badly injured on one of our roads, most likely you're going to be met by the police, but also by Ambulance Tasmania. And some of the paramedics will take you to hospital. And if you're really seriously injured, then we might activate our retrieval team and our helicopter to arrive on scene and to airlift you there. When you come into the emergency department and we get the notification from Ambulance Tasmania that there's someone who's critically injured, we put out what we call a trauma call-out. And this mobilises a big team of clinicians to attend the emergency department and be there for when you arrive. And that team of clinicians can do a quick assessment to work out what your injuries are. It's very much an airway breathing circulation exercise. And we can do some very quick point of care tests. We can do a bedside ultrasound and we can do some x-rays and some blood tests. But what it also does is it lets the rest of the hospital know if someone's very sick and they might need, for example, a CT scan or some x-rays, or they may even need an emergency blood transfusion. So it's probably no surprise that if you're a really critically injured patient coming from a car accident, that within less than 24 hours of being in hospital, you will have met 150 different hospital staff members. That's the doctors and nurses that might be providing the care for you, maybe the surgeons and anaesthetists if you have to go for emergency surgery. There'll be people doing those x-rays and CT scans. There might be people in the pathology lab or the blood bank that are cross-matching your blood and preparing you an emergency blood transfusion.
What kind of injuries do you most commonly see from road crashes?
Oh, I think this depends on what the type of accident is, and as we heard, it also depends on certain factors like, were people wearing their seatbelts? Because if we know that people weren't wearing their seatbelts or if they were speeding, then the repercussions for injuries are much, much higher. So we can see everything from head injuries, which might not be as obvious on the scene. We might see chest injuries where people's ribs are crushed or their lungs are collapsed. We can also see intra-abdominal bleeding as well, where your spleen or your liver or your kidneys might be affected. And pelvis injuries as well. So your pelvis is this very bony ring that tries to protect a number of very important blood vessels. And if your pelvis is crushed, then you can bleed out from that. And of course, we see extremity injuries as well. So that's your arms or your legs. And certainly, and I think one of the x-rays might allude to this, if people have their arm out the window or something like that, then we can see the arm and soft tissue injuries there.
Just a bit of a warning for the next slide, everyone. So if you want to cover your eyes, go for it now. Dr. Jenny, can you tell us what type of treatments are required from those sort of incidents?
Sure. So, treatments can range greatly. So if you're really unwell, we might actually need to get you to theatre straight away. So, for example, this is there was a slice of a CT scan with some white stuff in the middle. That was actually blood in someone's brain. In that case, we need to get you to theatre really urgently with one of our neurosurgeons to get that blood evacuated out of your brain. So you may need surgery really urgently. That might be related to your head, or it might be related to broken arms or limbs, or it might be related to the bleeding in your abdomen. Sometimes you might need supportive treatment in terms of helping you to breathe, and I think we heard from that video just before that the injury survivor was put in a coma, and what that means is that you're actually put to sleep and you have a breathing machine that helps support your breathing for several days while we try to stabilise things. And sometimes you just need to come into hospital for some pain relief and ongoing physiotherapy to try to get you back to what your life was before.
Thank you for that, and we'll just keep those warnings going. I think some of these slides may be a little bit graphic. Dr. Jenny, can you tell us how road accidents impact families and hospital staff? Obviously they impact the patient directly, but how about everyone else around it?
I think there's this perception that dealing with this type of trauma is just business as usual for doctors and nurses. And to some extent it is, but I think it's probably underestimated how this impacts us as well, because many of these stories stay with us for the rest of our lives. For example, I think there was an X-ray before of a forearm with some broken bones there, and I'll share that story with you. That was an 18-year-old boy that I treated in Victoria, who had been out with some of his mates, and for his birthday they were driving home. He'd had quite a few drinks, but he stuck his arm out of the window to kind of yell woohoo, and hit a lamppost, and so his arm was broken. But not just that, unfortunately all the skin was taken off it as well. And so on his 18th birthday I had to go to him in the emergency department and explain that his arm was going to be amputated that night. So those kind of stories just stay with you, and that's with the patient themselves, not even the family members. So the worst part of my job is the few seconds before I have to knock on the family room and break bad news to a family member who is just waiting to hear what's happened to their loved one. And I know that news is going to change their lives forever, and it's going to cause an enormous amount of heartbreak. So that's definitely the worst part of my job. Obviously it affects patients, but I think what we've heard today is that it's a little bit like throwing a stone into a pond. It has this ripple effect. Of course injury is going to affect the patient, but it's going to affect their families, and it's also going to affect their friends and their communities.
Another warning out here, everyone. Dr. Jenny, what's your message to young people when they become drivers? We have the next generation of drivers right here in front of us. What's your message to every single one of these students?
So there's probably two messages. In our party program, we talk about thinking twice and acting once. So if the first thought is a decision that might not be the best one, take a moment and reconsider. And if you're someone's friend and you see your mate about to do something really silly, that's the point where you can jump in and potentially change the direction of their life. So we always say, look after your mates, and if you have a thought that might not be the best one, maybe just take a moment to reconsider.
Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add this
No.
morning to all the students and people here this morning?
No, I think that's everything. I'm looking forward to signing the pledge and seeing everyone sign it as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time, Dr. Jenny. Our final guest is Richard Jones from Paraquad. He knows firsthand that the impact of a crash doesn't always end at the roadside, as we've been talking about. For some people, it changes every single day that follows for the rest of their lives. Richard, you've presented here at Hobart High School, so you'll already be known to some of our audience, but briefly, can you tell us about your accident?
My accident actually wasn't on the road. A tree hit me, which these guys know. But I met a lot of kids that these guys know, 90% of these guys would have done my talk, that were in road accidents, and I watched it completely turn their life upside down. Some ended up with similar injuries as me, some ended up as quadriplegics. And I know firsthand, like, you're literally, when you're getting injured, you're literally watching everyone else do what you can no longer do, and it's a huge impact on your life.
Spinal injuries are some of the most catastrophic consequences of a road accident. What challenges do people with spinal injuries face on the daily?
Well, I mean, it's a daily challenge. I mean, especially if you're a quadriplegic, you lose all independence, you can't use your hands, so you just become a big baby. So you're relying on your parents, you're relying on 24/7 care. For the high needs ones, things like incontinence, mobility, and yeah, as I said, you literally, the things you used to love to do, you just can't do, or if you can do them, the way you do them completely changes.
Can you tell us what recovery and adaptation really involves?
Depends on the severity and the level of the injury, but for quadriplegics, it can be really a year in hospital. So you're literally spending a year away in Melbourne, and then like lifelong adaptations of trying to do things without using your hands. For me, like, it was half that time and just learning to live seated and, you know, having to get on with things, but doing everything differently.
You've obviously got your own story and know lots of other people that have theirs as well. What would you want young people to understand before getting into a car?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, like you heard when I did my talk, is that if you're drunk, just don't get in a car. Like, call your parents, call an Uber, do something like that. But it's not always drunk people that do it. We all know what young boys think with, not that I'm going to go into that here. But, and they're not making good choices. Everyone wants to show off. So generally, I mean, you've got to be safe, think twice, and think with your brain.
Thank you so much. On to our pledge signing now. Thank you everybody for your wonderful insights. I'd like to invite our school prefects Lucy and Harry to come to the stage and sign the pledge on behalf of the students. I'll also ask our panellists to sign it as well. And the following isn't just words on a page. It's a promise to yourselves, to your mates, and to the people waiting for you to get home. Thank you, Lucy. We'll begin the pledge signing. I pledge to drive as if my loved ones are on the road ahead. I will remove all distractions and never use my mobile phone while driving. I will not put other people at risk by speeding, driving while tired, or under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I will protect all vulnerable road users, especially those whose job places them in harm's way, by slowing down and giving them the space that they need to be safe. How does that feel for you to be signing a pledge like this morning?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in signing it, you have to realise you are actually signing and committing to it. As I said to you, your prefects have done it on your behalf, and you do have to think that the person in the car next to you is a family member, a friend, part of your football team or netball team. And if you think that, you drive with a bit more compassion and a bit more thought than you would if you're just out in the car on your own. So it is a gold moment. You do commit to it. And it's important that every choice on the road counts in terms of road safety.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who's been involved here today. Our panellists, we have a small gift to thank you for your involvement. The prefects have got those somewhere wrapped up. It's like Christmas. Thank you to the Road Safety Advisory Council members and all the guests with us here today. Thank you to our production team from Creative Imagery, Core Comms and GK Productions. A huge thanks as well to Principal Brittany Rostenberg and School Business Manager Gail Reeves for so generously allowing us to hold the event here in Hudspeth Hall at Hobart High School. Mostly, we'd like to thank you, the students, for being part of the day, and I really hope this has had the impact that it needs to on you all, and I look forward to seeing the pledge once it's signed by everybody. Thank you so much, everyone.